I'd like to begin by asking you all a very simple and easy question. What is the very first verse in the Bible? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Ever since time started, God set an example of what it meant to be creative, through the sea, through the mountains, through the sky. And throughout the Bible, he calls us to do the same. In Exodus 35, Moses tells the Israelites to collect gifts and create a tabernacle. He has filled them with skill to do all kinds of work as engravers, designers, embroiderers in blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and fine linen, and weavers, all of them skilled workers and designers. God wanted them to use their talents to glorify him, and I believe that we're supposed to do the same. On Christmas Day of 2019, me and my family went to go see one of the most financially successful movies of all time, Frozen 2. As you may know, as a 14-year-old boy, you won't find the Disney princess movie very amusing. However, I didn't realize how big of an impact this movie would have on me until my freshman year of high school. Me and my brother had just finished watching the documentary Into the Unknown, the making of Frozen 2. I had a spark. Ever since I was little, I've loved Disney. I loved the Donald Duck shorts, I loved the Mickey Mouse shorts, I loved it all. And as an adult, I have a very odd obsession with the TV show Bluey. But that documentary combined the two things that I loved, that awe as a little boy and that creativity that I wanted to pursue as an adult. I wanted to do animation. I believe God has called us to take the resources he has given us and create something distinctive and beautiful. It is our obligation to take the gifts and display them in order to glorify him. There are 3 specific things that I learned throughout this year that made me realize creativity is more important than you think it is. This is on an emotional level, on a logical level, and on a spiritual level. To begin, I wanted to dive deep into more hands-on experience of what animation would be like. So I decided to work on Pixar in a Box, a 15-unit crash course combined with Pixar and Khan Academy to make what it's like as an animator to work at Pixar. There, I would learn all sorts of kinds of courses. Very simple things, starting with how to make your character have an intriguing personality, or the art of storyboarding. But as the lessons got more and more complicated, it felt like a full-on class. Before you knew it, I was working on the physics of hair on characters, or how to use palabras to make grass. I loved the combination of the science and math and art. The science and math part coming from something we use on a daily basis from school, and the art something that I love to do. My favorite unit was something called patterns. It's important to have patterns and to have more complex designs in animation, otherwise it's not going to look natural. For example, in The Good Dinosaur, you're going to need to have patterns on the skin to make it look more natural rather than having it be just generated multiple times in a row. Another important thing that I decided to do is to work in Adobe Animate to actually make my own short. Through this time, I learned 3 important things about animation: the background, the rigging, and the motion tweeting. To begin with the background, here I decided to make a short storyboard, and then later on I go on with pencil and make something a little more detailed. Then I go into Adobe Illustrator and I made something a little more complicated, and then I'd add color to make it more compelling. On the left you have things that I want to stay still, and on the right it's things that I want to move just a little bit. Next I learned is rigging. The next time that you're looking at a 2D animated show, think about the way how characters are moving. In the old days, back when people had a hand-drawn, it took hours and hours and hours of trying to figure out how to make a character move in a smooth way. However, with rigging, you just combine all the parts together. So for example, the head, arms, and legs are connected to the torso. So for example, you have the shoulder connected to the torso, then the forearm is connected to the shoulder, and then the hand is connected to the forearm. Then, it's much easier to move everything all at once rather than moving each thing individually, kind of like puppetry. And then you have something like this. And now he's sad. All right. Next, finally I learned about motion tweening. Basically, it's quite simple. You just have something an initial object where you want to go to a final area. So then you would work with timing and you'll figure something out. I used the clouds to have one specific spot, and then I'd have it end in another spot using timing. Same with the plane to add turbulence and to with the car to add, to make it look like it was driving. In the end, you'll have something like this. Through this, I realized it doesn't look professional, but I love it. I know that I'm going to keep trying over and over, and if it's something I actually care about, I want to get better at it. Another thing that I learned, or just to see if I can expand my creativity, is through 30 illustrations for 30 days. It's quite simple. For 30 days, I draw 30 illustrations. Then, I would try to see if I grew as an artist through this time. To be quite honest, I feel like I did. These are some of my favorites. And this is the difference between the first day and the second, and the last day. Again, it's something that I'm not incredible at yet, but if I love it, I'll keep on pursuing. Another big thing that I did through this year is something called SLC homerooms, where you would have people would tell announcements, have fun bits, and just entertain people at the school, or at least attempt to. So for example, every single week I had an opportunity to try something creative. This is an example. Shout out to Mr. Darren Walter. Of course, as I went, so at the beginning of the year, I went up to the SLC director and asked him if I could do homerooms. I didn't know what I was getting into because it's a lot of hard work, but every single week I had an opportunity to make something that I love. However, I needed an intro. Oh, that's not it either. I had been working on the software, or simultaneously, I've been working on a software called Blender, where you can model, you can sculpt, and you can animate. And through many hours, I eventually came up with a way to make an intro for our for our homeroom videos. There's one thing in common with all these things that I just told you about. I feel like I have determination. No matter what gets in my way, I will try to push through and show the world that I can do it. That's a beautiful thing about ADHD. Although it's important to have that drive and passion, it's important to be realistic about the ultimate truth in the thing that I love, and that it's a hard industry to get into. One day I was at work, I received a text from a friend saying that they knew someone who was an animator at Disney and would love to help me with an interview. I was really excited. Unfortunately, there was some miscommunication, and it turns out that person had only taken one class in college about animation, and the professor so happened to be an animator at Disney. All the questions that I had prepared went down the drain. One of the only questions I could ask him on the spot was, did the degree you receive help you in the career that you have today? In a very sad way, he answered with, I just work at the airport. I felt really bad for asking that question because I knew that he had that passion, but he couldn't reach it. There are thousands of people like Brandon who have a passion for animation but can't break into that industry. On the contrary, I asked my art teacher at our school, Mrs. Molesky, how do you see yourself as a steward when you create your artwork? She answered with, I want to serve in church with my passions. This stood out to me because she didn't directly answer my question, but she answered me in a way that she has a desire to keep going after what she loves and praise God through the gifts she is given, rather than what she's doing right now. Another important thing about this industry is that as a Christian, if you go directly into it, it's hard because you're going to get a lot of backlash. A man who I admire, who did this very well in a smart way, is a man named Phil Vischer. Vischer had a dream. Since he was a boy, he wanted to bring together his talents of film and his work of ministry to make something beautiful. And before you know it, his dream came true. Big Idea Studios was created. It made the most successful Christian TV show of all time, VeggieTales. Now, he knew he was going to get his dream, but what he didn't know is that he was going to lose his dream. In 2002, there was a poor box office for the movie Jonah, and the company went bankrupt. He lost everything. He lost his faith. He lost all the experience he had. He felt lost. The driving question of his book is, what kind of a God would stand back and watch a dream, a good dream, for ministry and impact fall apart? This ultimately made him struggle with his faith. But through this, he learned a lesson. If all these kids burning with passion to write that hit Christian song or make that hit Christian movie or start that hit Christian ministry to change the world would instead focus their passion on walking with God on a daily basis, the world would change. This really spoke out to me because all year I've been focused on wanting to go to tuition exchange for Bible University or California Baptist. These are the two colleges that are the outlet for how I can get to my career. When I was at work one day, I received an email telling me that I did not receive the Bible tuition exchange. I was heartbroken. On the way home from work, I saw a license plate in front of me that said CBU, which is the acronym for California Baptist. And this is one of the very few times that God has directly spoke to me, and he said, that's where you're going. A few weeks later on my Germany trip, I woke up at 5 a.m. and received a text from my dad telling me to check my email. I knew exactly what he was talking about. I had gotten the tuition exchange to California Baptist. Rather than enjoying something all alone, cleaning the women's bathrooms at work about receiving tuition exchange, I rather got to be in a fun country with people, surrounded by people who love me, and I got to rejoice with them. With the excitement I had, I decided to go for a major in illustration and a minor in film. Unfortunately, these are two degrees that do not provide very well if you don't break into the industry quite well, so you won't be able to provide for a family. Through mentorship from my family, I decided to go for a major in graphic design and a concentration in illustration, a balance of being smart for my family in the future and still having that drive and passion. It's okay if my dreams don't come true because it's only temporary. God is my ultimate dream, that's all that matters. A very important lesson that my brother has told me, and from the movie Soul, is that your job is just one thing that defines who you are as a person. As long as you have people in your life who care about you and want the best for you, that's all that matters. It's important to critically think about the practical skills that you have in order to bring success, but you can still have that passion. This brings me into the idea of what I can do spiritually, or how I think spiritually and theologically about my capstone. On my Germany trip, I had the opportunity to go to a concentration camp. At that concentration camp, there were many Jewish people who, I saw a lot of artwork that Jewish people had used to make themselves feel better in that situation. I felt this very fascinating. So on the train ride home, I decided to take some time and draw my own representation on how I viewed that camp. I found it very fascinating how when the people were lowest at their lives and that they could have been killed within days, they turned to creativity. This drawing helped me process and make sense of what I had just experienced, just like how those people did in the 40s. Another thing that I got to do was take photos on my film and digital camera. I was able to capture things that I love because God had originally made them, and I'm able to show the world that. I'd like to end with something very special that I got to do with my parents and Miss Hammonds. At the beginning of the school year, I went to the immersive Disney animation experience located in downtown Denver. At this place, there was a lot of ways that you learned about the old ways how Disney made animation, or just like seeing sculpts of like Elsa and Frozen stuff. But there was a room there that that was able to show all these cool things that Disney had done throughout the years through music. You got to see cinematic pieces from The Lion King. You got to see the amazing music from Frozen. And during this show, there were two girls. There were two girls running around and laughing and having the time of their lives. In classic 17-year-old boy fashion, I thought it was annoying. However, it hit me. I don't want to do these things because it will bring joy to me. I want to do animation to bring joy to people and connect them in unique ways. Ultimately, I have two goals in my life. One is to share the gospel and have the best relationship with God that I can. And the second is to one day maybe make something that I could storytell, and that would be projected on a screen, and there will be kids that run around and dance and have the time of their lives, because we know that in this broken world, every little thing that we can do to bring joy can help. This is an industry that I care about and something that I can pursue despite all the things that get in my way. I'm confirming with that 15-year-old boy who watched that special documentary that this is something I can do and something that's beautiful. God will use my gifts to serve him and bring peace to this broken world. Because that's what God is about, that's what peace is about, that's what art is about, and that's what film is about. Thank you.